Hello everyone and welcome to today's webinar. In today's webinar, we'll be covering the Fronius SnapInverters, the applications and new features for them. Presenting today will be myself, Byron Kutzer. I am the Technical Sales Advisor for the Southern African region. And joining me today is my colleague, Cipriano Kulu, who is the Technical Sales Advisor for the Western African region. So for today's agenda, we'll do a short introduction, as well as covering the inverter history for Fronius, as well as the Snap Inverter series, our service concept for Fronius, and as well as mentioning our Gen24 and Gen24 Plus series, those inverter features for the Gen24, and as well as any new inverter features that are coming, and also further information provided at the end of the presentation. So a quick introduction. So what Fronius believes is our mission concept of 24 hours of sun. So this is Fronius Solar Energy, energize your life. So it starts off with point 1, which is for a better world. So we at Fronius Energy are leaving fossil fuels behind and getting started on a path to a cleaner and emission-free future. Point 2 is consistency of emission-free. So we tap the limitless power of the sun and use it to meet the world's energy needs at all time of day, night, and year. Point 3 is solar energy for our lives. So this is to do with electricity, mobility, heating, and cooling. So with us, sustainable energy supply is becoming worthwhile and worth living with. Point 4 is mentioning about using intelligent solutions. So we digitally network and control our energy generations and consumption solutions, which allows for better, greater efficiency, means a greater sustainability at the end. Point 5 is mentioning our energy for all. So again, 24 hours of sun is for everyone. So with our intelligent solutions, sustainable energy can be stored and distributed decentrally. Point 6, so we believe in sustainability. So our products and solutions are sustainable designed and made from recycled materials and with optimized repairability and remarkable longevity. And then lastly, point 7, again, our 24 hours of sun for everyone. So together with our customers, partners, and society, we live our goal of 24 hours of sun and contribute in important ways to an emission-free and livable future. So for Fronius's inverter history, so Fronius originally started in 1995 in our solar energy department, and we introduced our Fronius Sunrise inverter. We then went on to do the IG Central, for example, to the Galo, which was our more CNI based inverter, and then we introduced our Snap Inverter series, starting with the Fronius Galvo, all the way up to our Fronius Symo Advanced for ROW, which is referring to Rest of World series, as well as our Gen24 series, which was launched last year. So Fronius Sunrise, again, since 1992. So it's still running. So for example, we did an installation with at Mr. Panbo's house, and it has been running for 27 years without any failures. And we're still offering service if need be on the inverter. And this allows for us to do a partnership without an expiry date. On the Snap Inverter series, we introduced our residential series, which is our Primo, which is our 3 kilowatt all the way to 8.2 kilowatt, which allows for 1 to 2 MPPT trackers, depending on the variant of the inverter itself. Again, this is a single phase inverter, and it's got a transformless topology, allowing for an efficiency of 98% and an IP protection class of 65. We then also introduced our smaller Simo range, which was the 3 to 8.2 kilowatt variants. Allows again for either a single or 2 MPPT tracker on the inverter itself. Again, is a transformless topology inverter and allows for an efficiency of 98%. Again, has an IP protection class of 65. So Fronius originally did a Simo hybrid a few years ago, which was in power class 3 to 5. And this again was a 3-phase inverter with a single MPPT tracker and 1 battery connection into the inverter. We have discontinued the Simo hybrid with the launch of our Gen24 series that was recently launched. Again, it was a transformerless topology on the old Simo hybrid, and again allowing for topology or efficiency class of 97.6%. On the commercial side, using our Fronius SnapInverters, we have the Fronius Simo, which is our 10 to 20 kilowatt invariant power class inverters, which again allows for 2 MPPT trackers, but you've got 6 string inputs. So you've got 2 by 3 string inputs on each MPPT. This then allows for a minimum input voltage of 200 VDC and then a maximum of 1000 VDC max. Again, most of our inverters are transformerless apart from the old Galvo series. Again, we got a higher efficiency of 98.1% with the Fronius Simo, so from 10 to 20. And again, it's IP protection class of 66. Then lastly, we had the Eco 25 and 27 series on the Snap inverter side. Again, power class 25 to 27, but this inverter only has 1 MPPT tracker, but it has 6 string inputs that are allowed to go into the inverter on the DC side. The input voltage is slightly different with a 580 volt min VDC and a max of 1000 VDC max on the DC side. So the snap inverter concept is simply with a backplate that offers as the mounting bracket for the unit itself, and then the inverter cover is separate, for example, if you are doing any work on the inverter. So the snap inverter mounting concept. So this is a wall bracket including the connection area of the inverter itself. So this wall bracket is anodized aluminium, which allows for pillar mounting is possible, and no special tools are required when mounting the wall bracket itself. So the switchboard or connection area, which is located at the bottom of the wall bracket itself. So this is have got your integrated DC disconnect, as well as your AC and DC plug connection points, which allows for copper or aluminium cables coming into the inverter. And as well as you can do a direct DC connection. So this is if you're doing a pre-combined connection coming in, it allows for 16 mils squared on it. Again, no electronic parts, so it allows for finger protection and no electric shock when working on the inverter itself. So the service concept for the Fronius snap inverters. So this allows for you to do the identification of the part that is necessary of the damaged board via the state codes itself, which allows for you to do a full board replacement and allows you to solve the problem on site, which again allows for lower maintenance costs as it's a board-to-board replacement and not a full unit replacement if there is any issues with the inverter. The cooling concept for our Fronius snap inverters has always been a active cooled condition. So we allow for 2 to 3 speed control fans that are located in the inverter itself. So the airflow comes from the left to the right hand side and then up through the upper part of the inverter itself. So this allows for mounting side to side as possible, but you have to bear in mind of the 10 centimeter difference between units when mounting side by side. So more flexibility. So the inverters with active cooling can even be mounted on flat or on a roof itself. There is no restrictions in how the inverter can be mounted from vertical to horizontal, so from 0 to 90 degrees itself. And the inverters with passive cooling can be mounted at 90 degrees or vertically only. So with active cooling, you have no limitations on the physical mountings. So a longer lifespan. So with active cooling, the hot electronic parts are getting the shorter the lifespan of the power electronics. So this allows an increase of 10-degree cuts and the life of the power electronics in half. So the active cooling, which gives you less stress on the electrical components and which therefore gives you a longer lifetime of the product. Whereas passive cooling reduces the lifetime of the inverters because of the local hotspots and potentially higher temperatures inside the inverter itself. Note its temperature plus 10 degrees centigrade. It gives you the lifespan divided by 2. With Fronius, we also promote is the Super Flex design. So with this Primo Symo multi-string, which is what the M is referring to, and as well as the Symo Advanced, you get higher yield even with partial shading. and with different orientations, for example. So you have a wide input voltage range. So you have 150 volt all the way to 1000 volts is possible. Again, you have two MPPT trackers on the unit. So this allows for maximum power point tracking itself. And the MPPT algorithm is our dynamic peak manager itself. So you get maximum yield with partial shading with the dynamic peak manager. So this is highly efficient. So shade tolerant algorithm utilizes the entire PU characteristics curve at regular intervals. So it'll do an identification of the point with the highest generational power. So this is your global maximum power point itself. Next we'll be talking about is the Gen24 and Gen24 Plus series. So again, this is still carrying over our snap-in concept for our inverter classes. So the Fronius Gen24 is designed to empower. So this is the new Gen24, not the Gen24 Plus. It's got an integrated backup power feature. So on the Primo, you get single phase 3 kilowatt to 6 kilowatt. And on the Simo 3 phase, you get 3 to 10 kilowatt variants. So the product strengths of the Gen24, we utilize the basic backup power supply. So this is known as our PV point on board. So the backup power connection supplies in case of a grid outage with no grid availability, automatic switchover in case of grid outage, and allows for supplies single phase electrical loads and up to 3 kilowatts. It's also got easy implementation without complex additional installations, and allows for the option of the PV point supplied with the battery itself. So for example, you have lost your grid supply, will then pull generation from your panels through the inverter itself and then out through your PV point. If you do have a battery in this configuration, you can then help your PV to charge it through the inverter itself to the battery. And then if the PV point is reducing in power below that 3 kilowatts, for example, you can then pull power directly from the battery itself through the inverter through to the PV point, and then lastly to help power your essential loads. So the Gen24, we offer a comprehensive backup power supply. So this is known as our full backup. So this complete supply of the entire household, including at night. So you get maximum supply through manual or automatic switching. So this can supply 1 or 3 phase electrical loads and allows for maximum energy use. So enabled by supplying loads and charging the battery at the same time. The Fronius Gen24 and Gen24 Plus were developed to let our customers customize and design of their energy suppliers as much as possible. Both inverters have open interface for this reason, so this makes integrating and managing Fronius and third-party devices especially straightforward. With the built-in freedom, so this is with our open interfaces. So this allows for easy integration of Fronius and third-party components, which then allows for maximum energy self-sufficiency and enables cost saving and self-supply. The communication via LAN and WLAN is possible on the Gen24 series. So you get also 6 digital IOs, so inputs, outputs, as well as Modbus RTU and TCP, and then lastly, as well as our Solar API JSON protocol. You also get maximum self-consumption. So this is through sector coupling itself. So this is when you are using your Fronius Gen24 with a battery connection is possible, and then as well as utilizing your PV point, and also making use of our Fronius Ohmpilot for your non-essential loads, such as your heating of water, for example, or any pneumatic loads, as well as the Fronius Wattpilot. So this is referencing our e-mobility solution. For this solution, you would need one Fronius smart meter in the system to help ensure that we use the grid sufficiently and also maximize our energy use by feeding the excess energy into our other sectors that are in our system. With the Gen24, we have different variants. So again, we have the Primo and Symo Gen24. So it allows for you to do on the normal Gen24 basic backup power point, which is our PV point, as well as doing open interfaces, so control via Modbus, for example. your energy management, so your IOs itself, as well as introducing your Wattpilot and Ohmpilot in the system is possible with the Gen24, as well as shading management, which is our dynamic peak manager, and as well as the possibility of connection to the solar web. Whereas on the Primo and Symo Gen24 Plus, so you get battery connection is included, and as well as our multi-flow technology, you can still utilize your basic backup power or PV point, and as well as your full backup power. But the full backup power option is not available for the Symo Gen24 3 to 5 Plus. So any version above the 3 and the 5, then it is possible to do the full backup power. You also get your open interfaces, so your Modbus, Solar API, etc., as well as your energy management. So again, you can integrate your Wattpilot and Ohmpilot in the system. Both inverters series have got active cooling technology, as well as our dynamic peak manager is available. Next, I'll be handing over to my colleague Cyprian Okulu, who will be carrying on from here on.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Byron, for a wonderful presentation. So I will be just want to get control of the presentation rights, and then I will continue with the presentation. Great. So I want to believe that you can all hear me clearly, and let's see. Byron, can you confirm if you can see my screen?
Yes, I can confirm.
Okay, great. So yeah, so continuing, we shall be continuing with the inverter new features, which is actually part of the topic. So here I will be bringing us up to date with new features that we have incorporated within our inverters, and that of course would make them much more appealing to our clients and installers alike. So first off is asymmetric generation. So with asymmetric generation, what this means is that yeah, for those that already know, for all our inverters, the outputs are actually synchronized, or basically symmetric output, AC outputs, meaning that they output equal power output across the three phases. That's for three-phase inverters. That's for the Simos. Along the line, this tends to present some sort of challenges, starting from grid interaction and then load imbalance. So, and our answer to this is the integration of the asymmetric generation. So with the asymmetric generation, it is now possible to unevenly distribute AC output power with respect to the load demand across the respective phases. So it means that if there's much or more load demand from um, a different phase than the other, the inverter would smartly do this, giving power or supplying power where it is needed more. This is pretty typical because we have very many cases where during the system design, or probably the load distribution in the client's premise, or in the load premise per se, it is often found that there is this distribution regime that tends to cluster heavy loads on a single phase. So once that is done, you also have situations where light loads, like the lighting points and base loads, are clustered into a different phase. So with this, it automatically creates sort of an imbalance when it comes to load distribution and, of course, load demand across the phases. So when this happens, it sort of creates a challenge because of the symmetric nature of the output of our Fronius inverters. So with this, it sort of solves that problem. Now, apart from that, there is also a critical problem that this also solves for regions or countries where an equal amount is charged or sorry, an equal amount is remitted for every feeding sequence. That is for countries where feeding is allowed. So what usually happens is between the client feeding and the interaction with the grid operators, they tend to get the same or equal remunerations, despite the fact that you might be supplying more load on a different phase. It means that the extra load or the extra power you inject into the grid doesn't get paid for. So, but with this, it also solves that particular problem. So going forward, yeah, I have basically explained or narrated what the asymmetric generation basically does, just to give us certain conditions. Yeah, so as this is a new product or a new feature per se, I'm glad to inform us that no hardware integration needs to be done. This will take effect with a simple software update. And then it is going to come with the new software version 1.31. So once you have that software update, you will be equipped with this particular asymmetric generation feature of the inverter. And then secondly, the phase is limited to 33% of the nominal power. So it means that, yeah, you can have imbalance, but then the least phase will be 33% of the nominal balance, while the other phases can, of course, take whatever percentage that is remaining and then distributed depending on the load requirement from the load point. Okay, going forward, next up to discuss is the Symo Advanced. So with the Symo Advanced, it comes with additional features, advanced features that we have added to the Symo SnapInverter. That, of course, entails why it is named Symo Advanced. So most importantly, we have actually improved the current handling capacities of the MPPTs. So it can now handle high current modules that are actually the norm today. So we are now having a very, very sharp increase in the current rating of modules. So we have, of course, in response to this, upgraded the features of the Symo to include high current ampacity of the inverter. In addition to this, we have also integrated in it the ARC fault detection, basically ARC Guard. I'll be telling us more about it in the subsequent slides. So with this, your inverter is now much more equipped to handle ARCs even from the DC side. And just like I said, I was going to give us much more info about this. In terms of the ARC Guard, which is basically the name given for the ARC fault output circuit interruption. Yeah, so what it does is to precisely detect arcs, especially on the DC side, with trained algorithms. So this is basically sort of self-learning, machine learning regime that has been implemented. And this is made possible because we are, of course, have a load of experience with arcs since 1950. And if you Recall that is the inception of our welding business unit. So of course, we deal with arcs a lot, and then with that experience, we've been able to implement arc fault detection to the best of our abilities. So with this comes an increased protection against fire hazards, as it's usually the case in some regions. Good. So in order to activate the ARC Guard on your display, on your SnapInverter display, all you need to do is to, first of all, request for the excuse me, request for the Profi code via the Solar SOS. So once the request is made, you will now get a code that you would have to enter. Once you enter the Profi code, you will now have to scroll to the ARC fault protection. And then once you're there, you can now activate it and then ensure that it is on. And then most importantly, once you have this on, please press the enter button. So once you press the enter button, it now saves this setting. We have a how-to video on how to activate the ARC Guard for the Symo Advanced on our YouTube channel. So you can do well to follow up and check on this and then get more information about it. Great. Next is the system power control. Now, with the system power control, this for me is one of the most interesting new features that we have right now in Fronius and about to introduce. So with the system power control, it sort of eliminates the use of external or third-party devices so as to achieve inverter to inverter communication. As we all know, we have different series of inverter brands out there. We have the Fronius Tauro, we have the Fronius SnapInverter, the Simo, the Primo, the Symo Advanced, we have the Gen24, we have the Gen24 Plus. Now, it's now integral to ensure that to ensure a possibility that these inverters can talk to one another within the same circuit or the same system. Before now, we have been making use of third-party devices to be able to establish this communication channel. But then the good news now is that we have introducing the system power control, which is basically an algorithm that makes it possible for our different series of inverters to communicate with each other in one system. And not just that, it also makes it possible to implement feeding limitation. So all you need for this to take effect is, of course, a smart meter. And then, very, very importantly, it only takes a firmware update to be able to effect this. So no hardware integration, at all. So that's a very, very great news. And of course, the only thing you need here after the smart meters, of course, to have a switch that we would now have to use to route all the communication channels together. So this means that for the Pilot and the Gen24 series, it will be communicating via their pilots, which is the data communication module for them. And then for the Snap inverters, it would have to be through the Modbus TCP terminal of the data manager. And then having said that, it is also possible to have a SolarNet ring within this loop or within this communication channel or channel or loop. So this means that you can have a cluster of a maximum of 5 light inverters. Okay, that makes it very, very much flexible. So with this, it means that you can have 5 light inverters per master. So it means that you can have just one master, of course, within a SolarNet ring consisting of 5 inverters. And then from that master, you can now connect from the Modbus TCP terminal of the data manager to the router switch. that automatically rings in all the inverters in the solar net ring into this into one communication channel consisting of different inverter series. So that's important information. In addition to that, if we're going to have in that particular system a Gen24 Plus with, of course, battery connection, it is imperative to ensure that the inverter connected to the battery is the master of that particular system or communication loop. So just additional information. Yeah, so with that, you can be able to achieve proper communication between different brands or series of inverters out there, and without any use of a third-party device. And just to add that this feature will be available as from the end of March. So next up is the individual access point. So what do we mean by this? If you remember, in order to have access to the web user interface, there has to be a point where you need to enter the password. And usually it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, the series. That's no longer the case because we have introduced a new unique access point password for every inverter. So new inverters that will be produced henceforth will carry on the nameplate, which is located by the side of the inverter, it will carry the unique access point password. So it's going to look like this. So with that, you would now be able to have access to the web user interface of the inverter. We also have a video on this, also on our YouTube channel, so you can do well to have look it up and then watch it. Us on our own part here for this webinar, we will be attaching a link when we share the presentation afterwards. I will attach a link that would enable us to watch and have a good idea of this new unique password. Great. Yeah, so it's going to be taking effect from our new fleet of inverters that would be manufactured afterwards. Good. Next up is the PV point, PV point comfort. Yes, of course, I want to believe that we already know about the PV point for our inverters, which makes it possible for you to have power even without a battery storage system. So long as there is irradiation, you can, of course, have power supplied at the particular PV outlet. So that is of course, a very unique feature of the Fronius Gen24 series. So, but we haven't actually stopped at that. We've actually gone ahead or gone forward to implement an additional feature, because for those that know, the PV point is only active when there is a grid outage. So now with the PV point comfort, it is now possible to have it active even with the availability of the grid. So you have continuously supplied power to that PV point outlet. So just to put it into perspective, if we remember what Byron shared with us initially with the PV point, so it means that yeah, initially with the once the grid goes off, the PV point now activates, and then it can now supply power to the appliances connected to the PV point. But in this case, with the PV point comfort, it is now possible to have power to the PV point outlets, even with the presence of the grid. Great. Yeah, so that was a roundup of the latest new features in product series. And the exciting news is that they're just around the corner, and we shall, of course, keep you informed with when they will come into place, of course, not too long from now. But then at this point, I'm going to give you further information. And at this point, it gives me a great pleasure to invite you to a roadshow that will be taking place in South Africa between February and March. And it's a unique event where we get to exhibit and those that come or attend, the attendees tend to learn about our latest technological developments, and of course, part of which we have shared with you already today. Of course, you get to meet our experts and get to know more about the Fronius Tower and the Gen24 inverter family, and of course, much more information. And to make it more interesting, yours truly and my other colleagues would be present during this event. So you can expect to see us in Cape Town, in Durban, in Port Elizabeth, and of course in Johannesburg. So we will be there present to share with you all the information that you need to know about Fronius. So in order to be part of this event, please, you can either scan the QR code that you can see at the bottom left corner of your screen to get more information and also register. I can assure you that there are very few slots remaining right now as I speak. And then if you don't have means to scan, you can, of course, click on this link. It's an active link, the Roadshow South Africa 2024. So once you click on the link right beside the QR code, it will, of course, take you to the platform where you can register to be part of the event. So, want to also inform you that recordings are available on our homepage where you can gain access to operating and installation instructions. On our YouTube channel, you can have access to all our how-to and installation videos. Importantly, you can have access to all our webinar recordings in our Sub-Saharan Africa playlist. With this link, you can have access to that. Yeah, so for technical questions, trainings, sales, and after-sales service, please do well to contact us using this contact information as displayed on the screen. And then if you want to have direct communication with us, the technical sales advisors, please do well to reach us on respective details as can be seen on the screen. But of course, as you're doing so, ensure that you are contacting the technical sales advisor responsible for your region. Myself, Cyprian Okolo, responsible for the Western Africa region, Byron Kotzer for the Southern Africa region, and David Mwangi, who is responsible for the Eastern Africa region. Great. That brings us to the end of our webinar today. We want to believe that you have enjoyed the content. If you have any inquiries, please do well to use the chat function. If we can't answer or attend to inquiries right now before the end of the webinar streaming, we'll of course get through to you via email and give you all the responses that you need or have made inquiries for. So from me and the entire webinar team, this is wishing you a very enjoyable rest of the day, and thanks for making out the time to attend. So until we come your way next time, this is us saying goodbye and thank you.